Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
Yeah, and you just think someday some villain is going to figure out if you just cut that thing in half, you would kill the hero before everybody else
You stop talking and get to the murdering.
Hey, this is Sam Whitwer. Welcome to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
Execute episode 66.
The podcast that worked hard to give Darth Maul a leg to stand on. So our guest today is the lead singer and guitarist of a band that you need to know about called the Crashtones. But you may also know of him from some other things he's done. I don't know, Davis Bloom, aka Doomsday from Smallville. And of course, the man behind the voice of Darth Maul. So I'm very proud and excited to have the privilege of welcoming Sam Whitwer to Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Welcome, Sam.
Hi, how's it going?
Very, very good, sir. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Excited to have a chance to talk with you.
No problem. Yeah.
Tim's
been looking
forward to this.
What?
I think Tim's been looking forward to this more than the rest of us, but that's just
It's entirely possible. Yeah. So I before I completely nerd out and giggle about all things Star Wars, because that's eventually where this will end up, I first wanted to talk to you about your music, because I've been spending some time listening to your music online and through Apple and such, and kind of getting a feel for what you're doing and such. Because I also feel like we could talk about music or Star Wars for a very long time. But I noticed on your website that you offer the Crashtones music on both cassette and vinyl, which is always of interest to me because I'm a vinyl collector.
You are.
You don't see it here, but I have. I got back into it about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I missed liner notes. It was cool to be able to listen to the music wherever I went and have these, MP3 files and do whatever I wanted with all the music. But I missed the feeling of ripping open an album and being able to look at the liner notes and I missed the crackle and the hiss of the vinyl album. There was something nostalgic in that feeling to me of being able to, and so I really wanted to go back and do that. So I've been going back over the last year. So I think I'm back up to about 150 albums right now. I've been going through and finding the ones that I used to have, finding the ones that I want to have, and everything else. But I told you all that so I could ask you this.
Sure.
In this digital age where everybody has to have everything as a compressed audio file, why is it important to you to make sure that you have albums pressed?
For two reasons, maybe three. It means that you own it, because whenever you get a compressed lossy MP3 or listen to it on Spotify or any of that stuff, it's not necessarily yours in its full glory. It's not the best sounding version of whatever artist did. And if you want to have that experience, if you want to actually hear what a person did, physical is a great way to go. CD is still the most accurate, best sounding format we have, way beyond what you would, download or stream it anyway. Vinyl is a very pleasing sound. And when I worked on the vinyl, I was surprised to learn that depending on the equipment that you're using to play it back, vinyl sounds really competitive with CD. I didn't know that. I thought maybe it was this old, it's cool, but it doesn't sound that great. No, it turns out if you play it back on some good equipment, really good turntable, it's really good. It's really, really good. And then tape, everyone maligns it as, it's not as good as everything else. But tape has a cool thing that happens called tape saturation, where basically, maybe the signal comes in a little hot at certain points and it bakes in a way that is very, very pleasing to the human ear. And so it has a character to it. So the ownership of something that you like, because for example, I have discs of, I just got the 4K of the first 4 Star Trek movies,
nice,
fantastic movies, but I want the best version of that. And streaming has gotten great. The streaming is great for convenience. But if you love something, I think you probably want to have the best version of it. And it's way beyond streaming what I see. So, for me, I collect these things. I want to hear what the artist did. And furthermore, I want to sit down and hear. This is point number 2. a deliberate way of listening to music, because we have become so our attention spans have shrunk to just about nothing, and we're constantly on the go or doing something or being distracted by something on our phone or something like that. So the act of taking a physical cassette or a turntable disc, put it on a turntable and sit down and listen to it is a very different experience. I mean, the cassette, I actually put it into a Walkman and listened to my own. I had to listen because I was making it, but I listened to my own record in a Walkman, and there was an experience there that I hadn't had with that. And it was a deliberate experience. I sat down to listen to it. So yeah, I feel like that type of philosophy is in danger of being pushed aside by a lack of patience. And so I'm combating that lack of patience.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm also amazed you have a Walkman that still works.
I was surprised I did, actually. Yeah, that was a surprise to me. I didn't know. I actually didn't know I had it. And I found it. I'm like, oh, this will come in useful. This will be.
That's cool. Yeah, I actually rearranged the front room of my house. We added a wood stove this year. We started heating with wood, and I rearranged the front room of my house where my desk is and where I put my chair, so that I could be close to my turntable and have a really nice area to sit down and just like you were just talking about, to actually sit down and enjoy the music, and being able to have a cup of coffee and sit there and listen to. I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan, and the Beatles, and so between those two, I've been going out and finding all these different albums of theirs that I wanted. Like, I'm so excited! I just ordered because I haven't been able to find a good copy of the Vitalogy album. It's literally on its way to me right now, and I will giggle with sheer excitement when that shows up in the mail. But I'm waiting for that album to show up, but. We did it specifically for that, so that I could have this sitting area to be able to enjoy these records.
Yeah. There's a lot of, when you hear a really high quality recording of some artist's work, I'm always astonished by how much detail is actually in there, and how many layers and how many things that you never really hear if you're listening to it passively.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now that I know that you're a collector, I have to ask, what's your most prized album, your favorite album that you have?
Oh, wow. Okay. Boy, I don't know that I can answer that. Okay, well, maybe I can. I for whatever reason, maybe it was when I was growing up, I really liked listening to Fleetwood Mac Rumors.
Great album.
Beginning to end, every song is incredible. And it's a really, really fantastic record. And it seems to transport me to a time where I was probably barely sentient. I was just a little baby, but there's something about that time that I remember. And I think it's related to what we're talking about, because, with these phones constantly vying for our attention and telling us essentially what to be doing with our time, or how to think, or all this stuff. Listening to Fleetwood Mac Rumors on a turntable in my house brings me back to a time where it was an option to not be around all this digital influence.
Yeah.
It's one of the wonderful things, one of the most awesome things about being in my particular sort of micro generation is that we grew up at the incept of all these technologies. So we know how to use it. We adapted it. We're very familiar with it, but we also, very importantly, remember a time before it. So when it becomes too overwhelming, or we find ourselves just feeling not very good for some reason, we shut off the machines and maybe put a record on and listen and find, oh my God, I feel happier right now. This is weird. I haven't felt happy for a few days. I feel happy right now. Oh, it's because, Facebook is ruining my life.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience recently. I got Police Synchronicity and Synchronicity, excuse me. And I sat down with that and listened to some of the songs on that, and it was one of those things, like you just said, it was kind of the transport back to something else, where it was, man, this is really I had my phone turned off. I put that over on my desk, left my iPad over there, just me, the album, the liner notes, and sitting down and listening to the music. Want a cup of coffee? That's kind of a standard.
Yeah, coffee. I never drank coffee until maybe just a few years ago, and my God, I had no idea. It's incredible.
Didn't realize what you were missing.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I'm moments away from mainlining it, so it's it's gonna happen.
I'm trying to limit my coffee intake because I'll have headaches. I'll drink so much coffee, and I'll try to back off it, and I'll feel the withdrawal symptoms. So nasty habit, kids. Stay away from it, but it's kind of wonderful. It's funny because when I was working on this record, I remember because there's a man working on anything creative, and you were saying that you were just painting, right?
Yeah,
it's terrifying because if you continue to paint, you're painting and you go, oh, okay, well, if I continue, I will eventually probably finish this, and then we're going to find out if it's any good or not. That's no fun, because a half-finished painting or a half-finished song or any of that stuff has the potential of being something really special, but then once you finish it, it's fulfilled its potential, and it's either good or it's not, or it's somewhere in between, or whatever it is. And but the secret is that if you don't finish it, it's nothing.
Right.
It never becomes anything. So
right.
So I found that because I was like I'd have to get some work done on the record and stuff. And you listed me as the guitar player, singer. I'm actually the all things on that album. I am the producer, I am the mix engineer, I am the bass player, guitarist, piano player, singer. The only thing I'm not is a drummer. I have a drummer that works with me. So it's me doing everything, again, including production and mixing and all this stuff. So I'd be like, oh, I gotta work on it tonight, but this couch feels amazing, and there's this new episode of this on, and it's really kind of late. I don't know if I'm gonna do it. You know what, maybe not tonight. Wait a second, let's see what coffee has to say about it. And then I drink the coffee, and the coffee goes, you're just afraid. You're just afraid. Get off the couch. Your laziness is fear in disguise. Get up, launch yourself out. You can do this, man. You got this. So I didn't realize that coffee would do that. That would change. It just give me a tiny little push into optimism and energy. And I learned through that again, my laziness is in fact fear. It's in fact being like, oh, I don't want to finish it. It might suck. I don't want to, that type of thing.
I understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
As I'm just
it's kind of interesting when you come to
down
realize
the line that laziness is fear in disguise.
It kind of is.
I'm using that later. Like,
don't you think though? I mean, what do you think?
Oh yeah, no, I totally see that.
I agree.
Since I also have a half-finished painting in my kitchen that it's you should really work on that.
Right. And what is it that you're like, it's a lot of work and I don't want to do it right now. And that's sort of, I don't want to do it, is actually you sort of protecting yourself. You know what I mean? Like I didn't realize that until
if I keep working on it, I might screw it up.
There it is. It's actually it's on its way to being pretty good right now. I should leave it alone.
Like it's right, because it still has that potential sitting there, and you're like,
potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be sitting with all these song ideas, and I'm like, I really like them, which is why I can't finish them. I don't want to finish them, and I made a deal with myself that I was like, you push this along and you do a little bit every night with maybe a night off here and there. And that's the deal I made with myself. And I followed through on that deal, and it sucked. It was so painful. It was so bad. It was so very bad. Coffee helped, but it was a nightmare, guys. It was so bad. I hated it. And then once the sort of writing part was done, I slowly started to like it, because then you'd go, oh, well, I wrote this and I really like the potential. I don't like where it's at right now. Let me monkey with it. But I finished it. It's finished. So let me monkey with the finished thing of the first draft, the rough draft. Mm-hmm. And then you can monkey with that. And then you can push it toward being better, and you go, oh, this isn't so grim. This isn't such a lose-lose proposition. Like you can actually, things can improve, that's it.
So to piggyback off of Tim's question a little bit, and you've already mentioned that you listen to Fleetwood Mac. I like talking to voice actors specifically about their musical history. And as a voice actor and as a musical artist, I'm sure you've got some interesting musical history. So do you come from a musical family, or do you have musical education specifically, or is it just what you taught yourself?
Some musical education, but I kind of dropped that right away. I didn't really enjoy the learning of it. then I found that I liked it on my own terms. So I'm basically self-taught on all various instruments and stuff like that, which is why I play so poorly, really. But it's my family has a lot of musical talent. In fact, the family members of mine that are musicians are way more proficient than I am with how they express their musical talent. Now, me, if I have a talent, it's that I could be a big faker. That's what an actor is, right? You know, like an actor acts like someone that has a skill. Like, I'm an actor, I'm playing a doctor. You know, I act like I have those skills and that education. Or I am an actor and I play like I'm a soldier, like I'm a trained soldier. You know, you're not. You're an actor. Right. So when I'm working on music, I'm pretending like I'm a musician, basically, and I have some notion of what it's supposed to sound like. So if I keep hammering on it, I might get lucky and be like, oh, that's sort of what it is. All right, moving on. Okay, and then we'll do this. Okay, that's sort of what it's supposed to be. So that's if I have a superpower, it's faking
I
have
to laugh a little bit though that you say that you're good at faking it, when the first role of yours that when Tim said, hey, we're going to talk to Sam Whitwer, and I'm like, I know that name. Why do I know that name? Because you're Neil Perry. That's why.
No fake guy's truck.
I'm like, he's the fake guy's truck.
He's a faker. Sam faked being a faker once. He's so fake.
He's such a fake. Good at faking being a faker, though.
Yeah. If the audience has no idea what we're talking about Dexter season 1, in which I was playing a guy who was pretending to be something. So I was a guy who's pretending to be a guy who's pretending to be something. It's really what I was doing. So
it was impressive.
No, thank you. I liked that role. That was fun. That was
a creepy role.
Surprising. Too. Yeah, it was very creepy. Very creepy. Yeah, I gotta. You know, funny enough, I think I finally out-creeped Neil Perry recently with a Batman podcasting that's coming out that I've heard some of it.
The Harvester.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I finally out-creeped anything I've ever done ever. Because I listened to it, I'm like, what did we do, guys? Are you sure? They're like, no, it's great. That's what we wanted. I'm like, it's really uncomfortable, guys. It's really nasty. I don't like this. So, but it's it's out there. It's out there.
Oh, that's so cool. I look forward to that. Because Neil Perry is creepy, and if you can out-creep that.
Yeah, well, they didn't tell me he was supposed to be creepy. They hired me to be a squirrely computer nerd guy. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where they got the idea that he was going to suddenly turn and scare the hell out of everyone. But I just got the next script, and it's like, that happened. I'm like, oh, were you guys going to tell me? All right, fine. I'll do that.
In his trailer with his taxidermy. And
yeah. Well, originally the audition scene was when he was being interrogated by Deb and Dokes. And he's just kind of being a goofball. And that's it. That's all they auditioned me for. Just me being like, hey, what are you guys doing? Yeah, no, that looks like that guy. I don't know. Yeah, my dog was with my dog. And that's it. Just me being kind of goofy. And then he turns later in the show to being something very different.
And like even the scene where they arrest him and he just starts singing while they're arresting him.
They didn't ask me if I could sing.
I'm like, what is this?
Dude, like, well, that was one of the things. I was like, why are they like, I think we can pull this off, but they didn't ask me if I could do any of these things. They gave me like this sheet music. I'm like, I don't want to read sheet music, but I can certainly listen to this recording they gave me. I think they gave me a tape of the song. And then I was like, okay. I mean, they didn't ask me if I could do any of that stuff. And I think I guess it just kind of worked out.
there's no rhyme or reason to it in the scene even.
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
But why is he singing while being arrested? What is going on here?
You know, I wish I could ask younger me what I thought it was, because I don't remember what I was thinking it was. I just know that, I will tell. No, you know what? I must have gone in with some idea, but I didn't really have it solidified. And it was, I think, right then on the set that I'm like, oh, it's like this. Which is, sometimes how I do things, but it's nerve-wracking. I remember definitely walking into that scene feeling very uncertain, because I'm like, okay, they're going to point guns at me and I'm going to start singing.
Right.
Okay. What is it? Is this going to be scary? Should it be scary? Let's figure out how to make it scary. And then it just sort of worked. You know what it was? I think I was like, I don't know. I just had some certain notions of, I don't know. No, forget it. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know.
It worked though. It totally worked.
But you know what it is? There was one thing where like, I think he was smiling when he was singing and he was looking at Deb. And I remember just being like, stay with Deb. just look at Deb. Just look at Deb and smile at her. But don't really necessarily smile with your eyes. Just kind of a dead eyes smile at Deb while he sings at her. But that might be a little weird. So I don't know.
It is, but it worked.
Oh,
I actually so when we got Tim said, hey, we're talking to Sam, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna go watch that again. And so I started watching season 1 again. And so it was like last week that I watched that episode, and I'm like, oh man.
The Harvester's worse, guys. The Harvester's worse.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, no, look, taking nothing away from Neil Perry. I think I love that character, but yeah, anyway, that was really fun. Have you guys been watching the new Dexter?
I have not.
Not yet.
I have not yet.
My brother is in it. My brother,
Oh.
Clancy
Okay.
Brown, Savage is in it. So I had to tune in, and I think he's just terrific. Clancy Brown is so fantastic.
Clancy's got some amazing characters that he has.
Oh
developed
my!
over the years.
How many amazing characters?
Yeah.
Like
No.
what
Extremely
can that guy
talented.
do? Yeah, he's so good.
Extremely talented.
Yeah. But really everything we're talking about, it's all fake. It's all, I mean, well, like fake in the most glorious way. It's all of these things are imaginative leaps that you're trying to make to try to make something have an effect. I mean, the music stuff is all a weird imaginative leap of me saying, what haven't people heard so much?
Right.
I mean, and I'm happy that when people hear it, they don't really know what genre to put it in, and I love that. And the other thing that I really like is that they also don't know what era to put it in. But they're always confident. A lot of people are confident. They're like, oh, it's very 90s. But then if they're older, they go, oh, it's very 80s. And then if they're older than that, they go, oh, it's very 70s. And then if they're older than that, oh, it's a little bit 60s. And they always go back to a touchstone that they know and are comfortable with in describing the stuff. And it's because I spent a lot of time faking the recording techniques of those decades. So if there was like an 80s keyboard part in the song, I tried to make sure that there were 80s recording techniques involved in recording that. If there was a bass line that was supposed to be a 70s bass line, I tried to make it sound and record like a 70s bass line. And that also, involved a lot of digital simulations of old recording rigs and all kinds of stuff like that. So that, it's a weird mishmash of different decades all smashed together, oftentimes in the same song. And those different parts are, again, recorded rather differently, which took a lot of research to fake it effectively.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, I really did approach the record the same way I approached a role, where I'm like, okay, well, this is a story. And who's the main character of this story, and what are the circumstances? And if we were to shoot it, how would we shoot it? And if we were to do sound design for it, how do we do that? That's sort of the way I was looking at it.
Interesting.
Honestly, with that thought in mind, I actually told Kathleen, I was talking with Kathleen and her husband today, that your music reminds me, and this is how I described it to them, was David Bowie meets the Talking Heads meets Primus.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not mad at that, but that's interesting. I like the Bowie reference too, because I heard Bowie in some of the vocals that you did. I heard the Talking Heads in some of the musical compositions and the phrasing of your verses. And honestly, not that many people can keep up with the bass playing from Primus, but God, no.
But some of the bass lines that were being played on and I'd have to go back and find the exact song. But there was one song in particular, I was like, God, that bass line, that groove kind of, and I was kind of like, bobbing my head listening to it. It made me think of Primus.
Yeah.
And so
which one it was I was listening to today, and John's like, that's very Glenn Miller. I'm like, yes, it is.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. I would like to continue to make music that kind of confuses people as to where the hell it's from, you know, because
Right.
when you're young, you're like, man, you guys sound like the Chili Peppers, and you're like, yes, we did it. And then you get a little older and you're like, we didn't do it. We didn't do it. We just sounded like someone else. What is that? You know,
Right.
and a lot of, I think because I have to admit I can admit this now that I feel like I have broken the shackles a little bit, but when I was growing up, I think the musician that had the biggest influence on me was Mike Patton, right? Do you guys know who that is?
Faith No More.
Yeah, nice. But not just Faith No More. Like, look
That's
up
what I
that
know him
guy's
from.
discography, and he's been in everything. My God, the guy, you know, I believe he did like a lot of the zombie sounds from Left 4 Dead, for God's sake, stuff like that. You know,
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like he's got an extraordinary vocal range. He can kind of do everything and anything. And he has throughout his career. He constantly does his whole career is side projects of just going, now it's this, now it's that, now it's that, now it's that. Now I'm crooning, now I'm this, now I'm that. And it's never the same. And he's constantly trying to, you know, not repeat himself and do new things. And I think my stuff was a little bit too, when I first started making music, it was maybe too influenced by the Faith No More type stuff. But thankfully, my influence was a guy who was trying to not be something that could be readily qualified. So, you know, I on purpose, funny enough, I actually had a really great Mike Patton fan constantly come into the studio and coach me about anything that I was doing that's too close to what he might do. So anyway,
that's cool.
He's like, oh, you broke it, you're out of that. Now you can list him as an influence and not feel like you're copying a different artist, you know, that type of thing. But it's but yeah, I definitely listened to David Bowie and all of those bands you were talking about. So, you know, but it really it's more like what's the story of this song and what's the best way to tell it, and through what decades and what sounds, and how much can you steal from this and that and slam them together, you know. You know, there's one song that it's what is it called? Hold on, what do I call this song? I think it's called, oh yeah, Base of Your Skull. And the fun name I had for it when I was working on it was the James Brown Halloween Special, because it had a complete James Brown bass line, James Brown style drums, and then, but although they weren't quite recorded the way James Brown would have done it, but I a little bit of a funky drummer thing going on, definitely James Brown bass line, but then a weird creepy keyboard part almost from Nine Inch Nails on top of it. So I'm like, it's the James Brown Halloween Special.
Watch yourself.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a weird, it's constantly that, like, how many chocolates and peanut butters can I find? That type of thing. What things don't belong with other things. And so if they don't belong, I want to put them together and stuff.
Love it.
So Sam, we often hold like a hidden gem that is dear to our hearts that we're like really proud of. What is like a role or a character or even some of your music that is a little less known that is your hidden gem?
Oh, man. I don't know. I really don't know. What do you guys think it is? I have no idea. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I was honestly struggling today looking through your IMDb and your.
So I'm going to do the same thing. What have I been?
You've been in so many things.
To access Sam's IMDb account, please go to www.samwhitwer.com.
What have I done? Yeah, what do you guys think it is? I don't.
So, well, here's one for me, because it wasn't something that I was aware that you did, and I actually had to go back and watch the run of it. I was not aware that you were in Smallville. Honestly, I watched Smallville, and I kind of, it's not that I gave up watching the show, I just kind of trailed off after I think about the 5th or 6th season. And
because he was in season 8, Tim.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I didn't know he was in it.
You know that now.
Going there. He's already on that tip.
Yeah. So I had to go back and I was like, wait, Sam was in Smallville? Where? And I had to go back and find it. To find out that you played, you know, the guy that was, you know, being basically inhabited by Doomsday was kind of cool. And you know, I don't know, I really, for me, I really enjoyed that because it wasn't something that was Star Wars related. And there's a ton of stuff that you do that's Star Wars related that I absolutely love because A, Star Wars, and B, Star Wars. And
I'm like, are you gonna say the line? Are you gonna say it?
No, not just, you know, shut up, Kathleen. Anyway, but yeah, for me, that was it. I really enjoyed you on going back and watching you on Smallville as Davis Bloom. For me, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know what would be my hidden gem. I will say that I feel like when we did Being Human, we were extremely emotionally involved with that story. Very, very into it. And you know, speaking of the record, a lot of those songs were written, or at least began. What are you? Hey, buddy, come here. What's going on? Come on. What are you doing?
You want to be interviewed too, puppers?
Yeah, he's like, if you're gonna go out there, you can bark with him, but don't bark in here to show solidarity. Don't do that. Don't do that.
He wants you to know that they're barking.
Yeah. So much of the musical content was kind of written as we were closing in on the finale of Being Human. So it was like a way, you know, that those two projects are kind of related. But I feel like we all did some pretty interesting work on that show. I really liked that show. I think it's on AMC Plus now. Someone was showing me like new commercials for Being Human, which I was like, cool, nice,
interesting.
I was actually, I mean, going through, like I said, going through your IMDb, it was wait, you were on an episode of ER, you were in an episode of Angel. How did I not notice that until I think about it? And I'm like, oh wait, no, there he is. I can see him now. Like,
yeah, there he is.
That's the one.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, you go from job to job. That's just how it works. It's interesting to me that the science fiction stuff has been the stuff that really stuck, because I've done a lot of other stuff, and then it seemed like the science fiction stuff was the stuff that was getting the most attention and being the most successful. I mean, maybe that has something. I don't know why that is. I don't know.
So, I only have one other question about the job to job. You have an uncredited role in Walking Dead.
I do.
That you were, it just says tank soldier.
Yeah.
Are you the one inside the tank?
Yeah, he looks quite a bit like me. In fact, that was right before. Yeah, I'm the zombie. He goes in the tank and he blows my head off.
Nice.
Darabont and I are buddies, and we have been since The Mist, and which is a film that me and him did. And not a lot of people know this, but I was not available to play well, I'll just say a certain role on the show. I was not available for it. Yeah. Yes, that's it. You're good. There you go.
I could see it.
And wasn't available. I had signed on to another pilot. And it's such a really interesting, weird inflection point, because Shane was something that I felt like I already knew how to do. Really wanted to do it, and I was heartbroken when it didn't work out. He literally called me up the day after I said yes to another pilot. I was like, Frank, and it's even more painful than that, because I auditioned. And then he got a hold of me and he says, hey, listen, your audition is terrific. You're just too young for it. I'm like, well, he's like, yeah, he's like, you're too young for it. I'm like, okay, well, you know, dude, thank you so much. And, you know, that's cool. Cause the guy he was zeroing in on for, Andy Lincoln's part was Andy Lincoln. And he's a little bit older than me. And he says, they should be really contemporary and you're a little too young for it. So then I was auditioning for something else. I was getting close to another pilot, and right as they said they wanted me. Buddy, you're being loud. You're being loud. What are you doing? With your snoot. Okay, so pilot. What? Seriously, we just talked about. So this pilot was zeroing in on me, and right as they said that they wanted me, I said to my agent, please call The Walking Dead. and make sure I'm too young. Can we make sure? And they're like, well, they said you were too young. I'm like, I know. I have a weird feeling. Just make sure. So then they called the casting director and I said, ask them to ask Frank. Specifically, ask them to ask Frank. And they said, no, he's not too young. Tell him to take the pilot. So I took the pilot. I said yes. And the next day, Frank calls me up on Skype. Hey, man. Hey, Frank. So listen, I was thinking about this thing about you being too old. Yeah, it's bullcrap, man. You're not too old for that. You gotta be Shane. And I was like, what? It's like, yeah, no, man. I'm like, well, how come yesterday you said that I was too young? He's like, what do you mean yesterday? I'm like, well, we called you yesterday. He's like, you called me? I didn't. He's looking at my phone. I'm like, well, I didn't call you. But we called the casting director to call you. She said she checked with you and you said, and she's like, she never got a hold of me. She never got a hold of me. I'm like, what? He's like, Witwer, we're buddies. Call me personally. I'm like, Frank, I'm not going to call you for a role that you already said no to. I'm not going to do that. And so he's like, well, dude, can you get out of it? I'm like, Frank, I have the contract right here. I was literally about to sign it. I said yes to them yesterday. I think it would be a dick move to say no at this point, even though I haven't signed, but I said yes yesterday. And he's like, okay, he said, well, later on, he got a hold of me. He's like, I got a really cool idea. He's like, you want to be that tank zombie? And I read the script. He's like, you want to be that guy? He gets his head blown off. I'm like, well, I'll do it. Yeah, sure. He's like, well, hold on. He's like, what I want to do is in season 2, a flashback episode, kind of like a Twilight Zone episode about the fall of Atlanta. And it will be about this young soldier and him fighting for his life and what happened and how these things all came to be. And I'll introduce a new character too, but he's like, but you will be the lead of this episode or 2. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. Let's make a zombie movie. You want to make a military zombie movie like Black Hawk Down meets zombies? I'm like, yes, I do. And he's like, get in the tank. I'm like, all right. And then so I flew to Atlanta and we were all excited. And then I remember, I'll always remember this. There's a weird thing that happens on sets where there's a packing order and people don't always, you find out how nice someone is. I remember one time being like I think it was Dark Angel. There was an assistant director who was grabbing me and pulling me around. You had to be over here and go over here and stuff like that. And someone was like, hey, that's our guest star. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were an extra. And I'm like, why would you treat an extra like this? Why would you treat anyone like this? Don't grab someone by the shoulder. What are you doing? So anyway, there's a certain level of that sometimes when you arrive on a set. And I have to imagine some of it is a little justified because maybe some people are, I don't know, trying to increase the size of whatever it is that they're doing or try to make themselves more important. I don't know what the deal is, but anyway, all I know is that I was getting ready to do the Walking Dead thing. I'm in Atlanta. And at this point we were negotiating being human because the other pilot hadn't gone, but then being human was coming up. And it was super interesting to me. And I was like the opportunity to be the lead of, my own show. And oh my God, it's going to be cool. And had been through a whole process of not only meeting people and reading with them, and my hair was a certain way. Get on the set of Walking Dead, and immediately the hair person starts buzzing my hair off. I'm like, whoa, stop. Like, what are you doing? Well, you're a soldier. I'm like, yeah, I know. Didn't they told you that we need to keep my hair as much this length as we can. Well, we need to have it really short. I'm like, listen, you're not going to believe me. I'm Frank's buddy. This is actually not just quick extra part. I know you're treating me like I'm an extra. I'm not. I'm your boss's friend, and I have to go do my own show in a little bit. So I need a little bit of hair because I'll shoot that in about 2.5 weeks. And they didn't believe me. They were like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Shut the! I'm in my own show." And they're like, so I was feeling all, how dare they? Don't they know who I am?
Vampires don't have buzz cuts.
Oh my God. And I remember really struggling with that when we first shot Being Human, to try to make my hair look like it did during make it look like they expected it to look, and thankfully my hair grows ridiculously fast. So we were fine, but I had to fight the hair lady on Walking Dead. And then the person I didn't have to fight was Greg Nicotero, who personally applied my makeup, which was fun. That was cool. Greg's a great guy.
sorry, back to the Shane thing. They said you were too young to play Shane?
Frank thought I was, and then he thought I wasn't.
When the actor that they got is a year older than you.
Yeah, but at that point, he had decided that Shane didn't need to be as old as Andy Lincoln.
That makes sense.
You know, so at that point, he was thinking, well, no, let's actually target more around Sam's age. That actually works.
Okay.
But before then, he was thinking they both had to be around the same age.
All right. So as it's been noted earlier, I love Star Wars. It's part of my everyday, whether I'm watching one of the movies, one of the animated series.
Whether he's comparing it to his marriage.
You know what? Nobody asked you.
Wow.
You're gonna make me say it, aren't you?
I am.
Okay.
And
Fine.
I'm gonna sit over here and do the mocking.
I'll just say it and get it over with so she can shut up about it. I often compare Star Wars to my marriage. It's there for me in sickness and health, good times and bad. There. Okay, I said it. Are you happy now, Kathleen?
It's not bad.
Oh, you have made my day, Tim.
All right.
not-
So whether it's one of those things or I play the video games, which my favorite has been Force Unleashed. It's a ridiculously fun game. And that's honestly where I got introduced to you, my first recollection of anything Sam Whitwer, as I watched Starkiller and like, man, who's that? I was like, and then I found out that was actually, a motion cap of you and your face, and that it's like, well, that kind of makes sense. That is actually Sam. Okay. And well, we've talked about this game in several episodes of our show because I'm a fan of it. Some of the guests that we've had on our show, other Star Wars content creators, fans of the game as well. But I have a question for you because this is kind of the argument that we've had about it. And so I want to get your opinion and see where you weigh in. Because our opinion is that Starkiller, as he is too overpowered. And it would seem that no one would be able to contain him or contest him. And is the reason why he could not be brought into canon as is. Do you think that there's something that could be done, or what should be done or could be done in order to make Starkiller jump from the video game screen onto the motion picture screen?
Yeah, easily, because people forget that Force Unleashed is more of a tall tale. All of the Jedi characters, all of the Force characters in there are operating with rules and power levels that do not exist in the movies or the TV shows. All of them do. So,
right.
Kazdan Paratus and Shakti, there's all kinds of crazy Force pyrotechnics happening in that game. And it was that George agreed that taking the Force and pumping it up to 11 was great for a video game, not necessarily great for the universe of what he was doing, but for a video game, perfect. And and then what's cool is that you still feel the influence of Starkiller even today. I have yet to ask Dave actually if the Clone Wars finale, if he gave me a little ode to Starkiller at the end, because Darth Maul goes full Starkiller.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in those circumstances, it makes perfect sense because the shroud of the dark side had fallen. The Order 66 happening. So in the galaxy, evil is having a party. And so if there were ever a time where Maul were at his best, it's then, or at least at his easiest, not necessarily his best. So but in order to put Starkiller in canon, the important thing about that character isn't that he's so powerful. I mean, he's got to be a little bit of a savant, prodigy. Yes, a little bit.
Right.
But what's interesting about the character to me is the fact that, his tutelage was from Vader, and the whole beginning part of Force Unleashed is him doing awful things while he's trying to figure out the world. It's like Luke Skywalker in reverse. And then the second part of the story is him trying to undo everything he did in the first part of the story.
Right.
So he's an extremely flawed character. He's an extremely confused character who makes a lot of mistakes throughout the whole thing. And I think that's to me what makes Starkiller interesting. It isn't that he's, you could do all these things. He's so powerful. Be like, no, I think that the story is what makes it. I think.
No, I'd agree with you. I think sometimes the nuances of his character gets lost in the explosiveness of what people are able to do with the character on screen.
Yeah,
and
right. Well, and it's a video game, so why wouldn't they be thinking about what you can do with the character? That makes sense. But yeah, I when I see people having their good-natured debates and saying, oh, blah blah blah, and he's too overpowered. I'm like, that's not even what's important about him. You know, he's a reflection, a shadowy reflection of Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano and those journeys, and him trying to make the right decisions when he doesn't really have very good guidance. And then when he finally gets good guidance, it's this alcoholic ex-football coach of a Jedi Knight. You know what I mean? Like there were a lot of very unique things about that story.
Yeah. A blinded Jedi Knight.
Yeah, right. That's what I like to do. I like to blind Jedi. What is it? I was being cheeky. There was someone on Twitter. He's like, you know, which one do you like better? And they showed Kanan having been blinded, and they showed Coda having been blinded, and someone was making a poll of like, you know, what was cooler, and you know, don't you think that one took from the other and stuff like that? And this came out first, and I just wrote back, I don't care. I blinded them both. It doesn't make any difference to me.
Well played.
And you know, give them a lightsaber to the eyes.
Well played. Well played.
So we've talked about many of your facets of honestly being a nerd. You're a nerd. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Right? Is that right? I didn't know.
Right now,
we wear it as a badge of honor around here, sir.
Oh, surely. Yeah.
So I mean, looking at your website, which the layout of your website, the design of your website is fantastic.
Love it.
That was done by my buddy Chuck Hurstis at Rex Remus on Twitch.
That is so cool.
Yeah, at REX REMUS. Give him a follow on Twitch. He's an incredibly interesting guy.
Definitely.
Done. And he was part of my band in high school. We were in a band together. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I was interested by your Dungeons and Dragons Art and Arcana visual history book.
Yeah, cool.
I am an RPG nerd. I love D&D. I love watching Critical Role. And then looking at the book today, looking at it on Amazon, I'm like, the foreword is by Joe. Oh, like he's king of the RPG world pretty much with his lair. And I've seen video of his tour of his game room.
Pretty impressive.
I know. I'm pretty sure that game room is bigger than my house. But that is amazing. So how did you get into RPGs? And do you have a current game?
Yeah, I do. We just played the other day. So the I mean, for me, I've been playing D&D since I was a little kid, since, you know, the way the little kids play, which by the way, Stranger Things did a hell of a job of portraying that, because they're not the rules correctly. You know, none of us did. We didn't know what we were doing. But it was so much fun. And ultimately the spirit of what we were doing was correct. Hold on for just a second. Let me negotiate here. Because Leonard is now like Spartacus, and he's figured out, that like, if he thinks he's talking, which is great, because he's imitating me. He's like, well, yeah, when you want something from me, you move your mouth and make sound. So he goes, and what he's trying to do is get me to give him and his brothers more food, and it works because I'm a sucker. So
how could you say no to their cute little faces?
You gotta sit. Always a good sitter, and then that's for you. Oh, good. And then you can have another one, but now you got to be quiet for just a little bit, and I'll give you more. So, yeah, I've been playing since I was a kid and doing it all wrong and playing D&D, and then got, you know, and was super into that and just loved it, and then had all my books taken away because, quote unquote, it's the devil.
Oh yeah.
Satanic
Panic.
Right. Yeah, the Satanic Panic. For anyone that doesn't know, parents actually
welcome to the 80s.
D&D were training manuals for Satanism, and that if you threw the books in the fire, they would scream. The books would scream, and all kinds of crazy stuff. There were all these rumors that D&D made you go insane, that you stopped being able to know what reality was, because role-playing game, like there was like an inherent property of role-playing games that made you lose touch with reality and all this crazy stuff. And, you know, whereas we were developing social skills and having, you know, getting into hobbies that would keep us away from drugs and alcohol, right? You know, like,
right, because you don't have money for drugs and alcohol when you buy minis.
No, exactly. When you're buying all those books. So was super into D&D, then had my books confiscated. But then I switched. I was at some place, and this older kid told me, he's like, we were playing Star Wars. I'm like, what do you mean playing? What do you mean playing Star Wars? Star Wars had now been gone. It's like 1987 or 88 right now at this point, and had been gone for several years and had just completely disappeared. And this guy's like, oh, we were playing Star Wars. I'm like, what are you talking about playing Star Wars? He's like, Star Wars role-playing game. I'm like, that's a thing?
Those
Yeah.
exist.
Like, it is. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm like, when did that happen? It's like D&D for Star Wars? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what?
Yes,
So
please.
then I go and, get my parents to get me these West End Games role-playing game books, the original West End Games, which, that isn't the devil, that's Star Wars, right?
Right.
And in it, I'm reading about
Space magic is better.
yeah, I'm right, space wizards. So then I'm reading about like how some senator named Palpatine. I'm like, that what? He like used, it literally says in this opening thing that he used subterfuge and deception and messed with the barons of industry and the corrupting influence of money to trick his way to the presidency, and then betrayed and murdered the Jedi Knights, declaring himself the Emperor. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. So this Palpatine guy's the Emperor? The Emperor's name is Palpatine? Whoa. And he was a senator? And the Jedi Knights were, oh my God, what? And it's like, this is the world you were born into, the world of Star Wars. I'm like, what? And then I'm reading about, like in the Star Wars source book, like there is a crystal at the center of the lightsaber. I'm like, what? There's a crystal? And the armor that Boba Fett wears is similar to, it's the same type of armor. No one knows where Boba Fett comes from, but he wears the armor of the Mandalorian warriors. I'm like, what's a Mandalorian warrior? There's more of these guys? What are we talking about? So I'm reading all this stuff, and dude, like, I was already a big Star Wars fan, but then those role-playing game books, just like, I was lost in that world.
Oh yeah.
And so me and my friends set out and like played Star Wars like a lot for many, many years. Fast forward, just the same group of guys that I grew up with. And we play RPGs. We did a Star Wars campaign that lasted 12 years. We are doing a D&D game now, but we're doing the 1981 Moldvay edition of Dungeons and Dragons, basic D&D,
Nice.
which is lethal as hell.
Yes, it is.
If you drop to 0 hit points, you die immediately. There's no saving throw, no nothing. You just
Oh man.
and you have very few hit points. So we are doing it the way that the devil intended. We're playing the old version. We've been playing that. We started that game over the pandemic, and we've been, playing it now for like a year and a half or however long lockdown has been.
Right.
And then eventually we're gonna go back into Star Wars and play the Fantasy Flight edition, which is like my favorite version of the Star Wars rules ever. It's just an awesome.
What's your go-to character build?
I'm the GM. That's my go-to.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
Look at you go. All right.
Yeah.
the forever GM. That's my husband. He's
That's
stuck
me.
as the forever GM. But
Yeah.
Speaking of RPGs and characters are dynamic and ever growing. And you've gotten to see Darth Maul's character develop through the most screen time he's ever gotten.
Kind of weird, huh?
Yeah. And so as you played out his journey, like what pieces of his character did you connect to the most throughout his character arc?
I don't know. All of it, I guess, because we were, it was fun. Anytime we revisit that character, it continues to be fun because we're always trying to invent something new for him. Also with the understanding that he's in this cycle, that this, he's caught in the gravitational orbit of the black hole inside his own heart. So he's sort of orbiting around himself in this vicious cycle, this circle that he can't break out of. And yet there are still plenty of really interesting new things you could do with the character who's going through that. What are you doing, Leonard? Leonard! Mr. Buggy, what are you doing? So yeah, all of it. It was a terrific, amazing challenge to even bring that character back on Clone Wars. And Dave and I were extremely worried about it, really, really stressed out. And the fact that it seems to have worked is a source of never-ending joy for me. It really is.
Right.
Nailed it, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. It was, I think we knew we were in a good place when we were like bringing him back for Rebels. It was the first time we'd really, we were bringing him back, and we were like, let's do something. Let's do this. Like we were talking about it, and we were a little I don't want to say cocky, but we were like, after what we've done with the character in Clone Wars, if we don't do something weird, the fans are actually going to be disappointed. Whereas in Clone Wars, it was all about like, okay, first of all, we don't agree with what we've seen in terms of the portrayals of this character. And we're not talking about Phantom Menace. We're talking Phantom Menace. Obviously, we agree with it because it's Phantom Menace. That's where the character came from. But we didn't entirely, it's not like we didn't like some of the stories that had happened with him, but he was often portrayed as very strong silent type because he was in Phantom Menace. And the tricky thing is there's like, we could almost only fail at this because the fans love him like that. They love him the way he is. And now we're going to take him and go, yeah, but his personality is actually like this. It's not like that. It's like this, you can almost only fail under those circumstances. So we were worried. We were concerned. We talked over and over and over again, for months before we recorded anything about how we were going to tackle this. And it was never, Dave, I don't ever recall Dave ever saying, I think he should sound like this. It was always, what's the character? We were always talking about this psychology. And one of the first places that we went was like, okay, well, that silent thing is going to go because it doesn't make sense. It makes sense in Phantom Menace because he's standing on ceremony. He's being a good apprentice. He's being a good soldier. But the fact is there's a rule of two. There's no way. There's a rule of two. You can only pick one apprentice. So he's going to be good at everything. You find an apprentice that it's not someone who's just good at sword fighting. They'd have to be brilliant. They'd have to be strategic. They'd have to be diplomatic. They'd have to probably have a really interesting sense of humor. They'd be really interesting people, these apprentices, if they survive that long, So immediately we're like, okay, well, we're getting a sense of who this guy is and how manipulative he is, but also how charming he can be and all this different stuff. And then we had to tackle they're like, okay, let's back up. We have to tackle the spider guy. So, we're coming up with this idea that, the Sith are constantly trying to fill the hole in their heart with stuff and wealth and power and relationships. And Leonard, I'm talking about Star Wars. What are you doing? So are you serious? Did you just do that? Okay. I'm going to make you a deal. All right. I'm going to go and I'm going to give you a little extra food, but then that's it. Stop gaming the system. A girlfriend once said of me and my relationship to Leonard, she's like, the thing with you and Leonard is you really respect the guy. I'm like, I do. He's clever. He's really, I respect who he is. He's a good man, and he knows what he wants, anyway. So
he's also got a great name. Leonard is a fantastic name for a dog.
Yeah, we were just commenting on that.
It's Leonard and Buster and Walter.
Fantastic.
So we had this spider thing, and the Sith are all about filling this hole in their heart with anything they can. And in the case of Maul being discarded on the garbage planet, he would be gathering garbage and refuse around him. And that eventually over the years, as his sanity, started falling apart, the dark side, like the garbage starts sticking to him and eventually getting bigger and bigger and bigger and trailing behind him as he would crawl until eventually it took on a life of its own. And the spider legs started animating themselves, power of the dark side of the force and all this stuff. So we're going to do this crazy, mad, awful madness of the dark side, sort of teach the audience this is what the dark side really is. This is what it actually is and not what they're trying to project to everyone else, this madness that Maul is going through and all that stuff. And then the next move was, I said to Dave, I'm like, okay, for the next episode, we have to have him be as close to Phantom Menace Maul as we can be for the next episode. And then after that, we can start building our our character, and we agreed that that was the way we were going to tackle it. And I'm just so happy that we got away with it. And it was fun to be able to sort of add a character trait per episode, you know, sort of add different flavors, and that has completely flavored the way we approach the character anytime that he's been, you know, dragged out for a story. That there's like, okay, what other interesting things and flavors of this character, what new can we learn about him? And you know, I mean, that recent Clone Wars season, that was really fun, really fun, because we were, you know, we'd never seen him that terrified, we'd never seen him that off his pins and disconcerted and concerned. So, and I just love Dave's writing. I mean, the idea that, well, I mean, take The Empire Strikes Back, right? You got Luke Skywalker up against, you know, Darth Vader, and they're fighting. And okay, so George, they're fighting. Yeah, and Luke is he's good at he kind of gets the upper hand for a second, but then you find out Vader has been toying with him, and then Vader cuts his hand off. Whoa, really? Yeah, he's going to cut his hand off anyway. So then this is where Vader is going to reveal. He's going to say, "Come and join me because I am your father." Wait, what? Yeah, chill. It's a thing I figured out. He's his father. And then he's going to say, "Join me." And they're like, "Well, is he going to join him?" Well, no, of course not. Luke, we all know Luke is not going to join Darth Vader. He would never join him. Well, then where's the drama if he asks him to join him? Well, we're going to put it against a bottomless pit. So it's the idea is join me or die. And you're like, oh, well, that's drama. And then Luke chooses die, you know, which is a really interesting thing. You know, the drama is built up by "I am your father" and all that stuff. And this choice that Luke is given under the circumstances of his father asking him. You know, there's a lot of drama baked in there. So Dave and George's twist on that for their version of that type of scene is make the bad guy right. Make the bad guy, everything he's saying is the truth, and he's the only guy that has any idea of how to combat what's about to happen. He's the only guy that has a workable solution in any way. So he's right. And that's the drama. What is the, you know, all the good, the protagonist, Ahsoka Tano, the main character, the good person, all the good person has to do is kill their best friend. That's not good, you know? And Maul's only mistake there was that he didn't recognize. He figured, well, we're the same. I got betrayed by the Sith. I hate my master. You got betrayed by the Jedi. You hate your master. And no, that's not how it works. He doesn't get that. He thinks, here's your chance to get back at your master, because we have to kill him, because he's going to be a huge problem. And he's right. But,
he is right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fascinating scene where Maul basically lays out, you know, what did we say? We joked. He's Maul-splaining Star Wars. I thought that was funny.
Nice.
That was the joke. It was a joke me and him made to each other. We were laughing our ass off. But,
I love it.
But you know, that's a really interesting thing. And you know, in terms of what his actual plan is, I don't know exactly what his specifics were, other than the fact that no one really talks about the fact that Maul has absolutely devastating information to give the Jedi, tons of it. And the big thing that he has is, throughout this series, the Clone Wars, everyone's like, who's the Sith Lord? Who's the Sith Lord? Who's Darth Sidious? Who's Darth Sidious? Maul's like, I'll tell you. He's right over there. There's him. That's him. Palpatine. Yeah, some of you guys are already suspecting it. I'm telling you, that's him. There he is. What are we going to do? So he's the only guy who can actually name him. He's the only guy that can actually do that. And yet, out of either misguided loyalty or fear, he has not divulged that secret throughout the entirety of his time since he was brought back. And finally, at the end, if he can get Ahsoka Tano to join him, he'll tell her. And she doesn't go for it. So, you know, crazy stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know, the coolest thing about all this stuff, though, is that this is what I love about George Lucas's Star Wars, is that he never really repeats himself. He's always going off in strange directions. You know, some people be like, well, he did repeat himself, the Death Star. I'm like, that's really minor, because Return of the Jedi is a very challenging piece. in which he takes who was the biggest villain in cinema history at the time, and perhaps even today, Darth Vader, and turns him into a pitiful figure and a sympathetic figure, which
Mhm.
would never imagine that before that, and he was going to create a new villain in the Emperor and have that be even worse when that worked out, and that the solution to all this, when the main character Luke Skywalker's mentors are saying you have to kill Darth Vader, and he's saying I don't know if I could do that. The previous movie is about how bad it is when he didn't listen to his mentors, how things go horribly wrong when you don't respect your elders and don't respect the knowledge and wisdom they're giving you. And then the next movie is now you have to reject them because you are an adult now. You must come up with your own path. Don't listen to what they're telling you. These same mentors who have your best interest at heart, who have everyone's best interest at heart, who you didn't listen to, who are trying to help you. At this point, you're wise enough to know they're wrong, and that the only way to deal with this situation is to look your enemies in the eye and throw your weapon down. That's a repeat? I don't think so. Return of the Jedi retread. That's a retread, really? That's the type of ending to a trilogy that Hollywood has still been chasing after and has not cracked since Return of the Jedi. We don't have anything like that. And for everyone that talks about how fascinating Darth Vader is as a character, and they all think, that a lot of that is in The Empire Strikes Back, and you go, no, that heavy lifting was done in Return of the Jedi, and you're projecting it back to The Empire Strikes Back because you knew there was a subtext, you didn't know what it was. Jedi gives the subtext to The Empire Strikes Back retroactively. So, you look at all this stuff, all these things, and something that Dave said to me once was that you don't always recognize a good idea from George. And the reason is you've never heard the idea before. You can't relate it to another movie or book or this and that. So you don't know how it works. And here we are discussing Darth Maul and Ahsoka Tano and Darth Sidious and how the Jedi are politically gridlocked, and that Order 66 is about to happen. The end of the world is going to happen. He's corrupted a young man and whittled away at him for years. And his sister, essentially Ahsoka, either needs to kill him or choose to believe in him. And if she chooses to believe in him, that's actually the wrong thing in this circumstance. All of these circumstances we're talking about, everything that we're talking about, would absolutely explode the mind of any Star Wars fan who heard it in 1986, because you wouldn't know how to relate to it to anything you'd seen before. And that's what I love about George Lucas's Star Wars. It's weird. It's new. You're talking about things that you had no idea about, that have nothing, you know what I mean? Like if I were to talk about the prequels or, some sort of Star Wars thing back in 1985, I would be riffing on what I had already seen. I'd be like, yeah, it's kind of like, and then they go and they, do this thing and they fight these walkers, and then that happens. And then you find out it's Darth Vader's cousin, and oh my God, whereas here we are talking about, Omega and Bad Batch of clones and, Camino, Boba Fett's father, Jango Fett, and all these weird things that if I were to say them, I would be lost as a young person hearing this stuff in the best way. I'd be so excited because it's all very new,
Well, Sam, we have enjoyed having you on Funny Science Fiction, and honestly, I think we could talk to you for hours. You've on a lot of different topics. It's been a lot of fun. But before we kick you out of here, we have something we like to do with every guest, and that is play a little quiz with you.
Okay.
All right. So it's a 5-question quiz. All questions are multiple choice.
All right.
Okay. If you get 3 of the 5 questions correct, we'd like to send you one of these I gave to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphan Funds coffee mugs, like the one I'm holding up here. Okay. If you get 4 of the questions correct, we'll send you that mug along with the book from our founding father of the group, author Drayton Allen. It's called Custodians of the Cosmos. It's a book written about something that's a lot like Star Trek, but not quite, for legal reasons. Where a young man tries to enter something quite like the Starfleet Federation and washes out. And so in order
Totally
to
not Starfleet Federation.
totally not that. But instead he rejoins as a custodian so he can boldly clean up after those who boldly just went. So With that, we have 5 questions for you. It's a
Okay.
Star Wars quiz because we thought, well, it'd be kind of fun to throw some questions at you, see how you do on some of these. Now, if you get less than 3 of the questions correct, we'd like to take a picture of you, put it in our Facebook group of over 190,000 members, and make a meme out of you. We call it our fun sequence.
Why are we doing this? Why?
Well, you see here because we can.
Let's see. All right.
Are you okay with that?
Sure.
All
you
right.
would be in very good company in the meme verse if that happens. But
Great.
it's you and Star Wars. I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, again, like when I've been talking for a while, and I've had a long day. I'm like, I don't remember anything. My mind goes, oops.
It's all right.
All right, Nick, take us out.
On Darth Vader's chest plate, there is a phrase which reads, "His deeds will not be forgiven until he merits." In what language is it written? Is it A, Huttese, B, Swahili, or C, Hebrew?
C, Hebrew.
Very good.
That is correct.
That is correct. All right, question number 2. What is the name of Queen Amidala's decoy? A, Sabine, B, Charday, or C, Sabe?
Sabe. C.
Also correct.
2 for 2.
Charday is great. Charday.
This popular word in the Star Wars universe is never said in any Star Wars movie. Is it A, Kashyyyk, B, Ewok, or C, Toydarian?
Wait. This popular word? What?
Was never said in any Star Wars movie.
Okay, and then what are the words again?
Kashyyyk, Ewok, Toydarian.
It would probably be Ewok, right?
Yep.
Correct. All right, so that gets you 3. That earns the coffee mug. Yay, coffee mug.
Out of danger of being a
Thank
meme.
God. All right.
All right. Number 4. The opening crawl was influenced by what sci-fi serial show? A.
Flash Gordon
Rocky.
conquers the universe. Yeah.
It is Flash Gordon. I love
There you
Flash
go. 4 for 4. That gets you the mug and the book. And this is what we like to say is just for funsies.
What was Yoda's name originally? Buffy, Minch Yoda, or Ayla?
Minch Yoda. Yeah.
Very good. All right,
Yeah.
5 for 5, sir. Well done, you.
Good. I'm so glad.
We try not to make them too difficult, but we thought we'd
Yeah,
have,
right. But it's good. You got some share of difficulty in there.
yeah, we tried a little bit.
One that probably catches people off guard is the Kashyyyk Ewok thing, because
I
so
actually-
much of this stuff in the original trilogy they never actually say in the movie. You know, like
Right.
even in the original Star Wars, they never say X-wing, but they're X-wings. You know, they do say it in
Mhm.
The Empire Strikes Back, ship approaching X-wing class. You know, that type of thing.
Right.
A lot
Yeah,
of
I
things
don't think Kashyyyk was said until the prequel trilogy. And Toydarian was said during the prequel trilogy, but I looked it up. I had to do quite a bit of research on that question about Ewok, and yeah, so, several sites, several reputable sites all said that it had not been said. So
yeah, it's interesting how that works.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and what you're working on now?
I suppose just send them to samwhitwer.com, I guess. I think I'm not very good at self-promotion. But yeah, samwhitwer.com. And if you're interested in that music stuff that I do, the group is the Crashtones, which is my imaginary group. The cassette is actually a unique version of the record because I monkeyed with the songs before I put it on the cassette. So that's a little bit different than the other versions. And yeah, that can be all found on Amazon and stuff, along with Dungeons and Dragons Art and Arcana and all that stuff, which is the D&D book, the visual history of Dungeons and Dragons that we made.
yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, there's links for those all on your website.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right.
To jump people over, if they go to samwhitwer.com, I think they'll have
There you
access
go.
to all of that.
There you go. samwhitwer.com. You'll find it all from there. Yeah.
definitely going to link that for our viewers and our listeners.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, guys, if you haven't by now, I want to remind you that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to help us get more amazing guests like Sam Whitwer here today to have funny moments for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It's that little button right down there. You want to make sure you click that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And make sure that you go out and check out Sam's work and his music as well. I'm sure you're going to enjoy both of that. But for whatever reason, if you're not happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is Darth Maul, the new leader of Mandalore and the owner of the Darksaber. But we do suggest that you bring at least 3 sets of your complaint and some Republic or Sith credits to the table. 1 to get past the pirates, 1 to bribe the guards at the door, and the rest, well, of course, for Maul. He's ruthless in his efficiency, but you can be sure that your complaint will be heard and cared for if there's enough credits attached to it. If not, well, you might just get to meet his lightsaber.
Thanks again, Sam.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. This has been Funny Science Fiction. Goodbye.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt Crewman number 66. You'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and joins Darth Maul in the quest to take over Mandalore, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back, and what's left of his blaster.
And speaking of sponsors and show partners, check out this short video from our good friends over at Level Up Lightsabers. Information about Level Up Lightsabers and their online training sessions can be found in the episode description below.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
Copyright 2020 by Drayton Allen. Original music by Jordan Michaels. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned in this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation of or by Funny Science Fiction or its sponsors. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at DraytonAllen@DraytonAllen.com.